The difference now with technology deployments now compared to the past is that you need cross-functional teams now to make it a success.
Now, frequently, IT department is the one who is preventing Copilot deployment. They're trying to stop it. They're disabling access. They consent of data privacy, data security, etc. From one hand, they complain that AI is taking their job. From another thing, they use themselves to create pictures, to create slogans, whatever they do there.
But it's a lot of guesswork. Let's see if this does that. It's kind of like trial and error stuff. It's not as clear as building a CRM system or an ERP system, but it's a lot of guesswork. Let's see if this does that.
Our job more than ever, I think, is to show them the ways this can be controlled and used productively and positively for them.
Today's number is 70. Analysts say that 70% of Fortune 500 have adopted M365 Copilot or just generally Copilot, mostly pilots and phased rollouts. And most important question, who owns AI deployment? Who owns the delivery of Copilot's AI delivery? What do you guys think?
Who owns it or who should own it?
Truth versus best practice.
Truth versus best practice, indeed. I think that at least for agents, which I've been involved in the most versus co-pilots and industry co-pilots and whatnot, business. I think it should be owned by business. And I want to say that business is always fairly well involved in those. And the reason I'm saying that is because from my experience, IT doesn't really know yet, to be honest. They don't even really know how to be involved.
I think we can expand. I had a conversation recently with someone, and it struck us both that fundamentally what's unique about AI delivery compared to old technology delivery we had, digital transformation, everything before. AI was at a forehead, everyone running behind them, and AI was trying to sell the idea. Now, frequently, IT department is the one who is preventing Copilot deployment. They're trying to stop it. They're disabling access. They consent of data privacy, data security, etc. While the shadow AI is penetrating everything. Anyone who thinks IT department should own AI delivery, I think they will be puzzled that IT department may behave not the way they used to behave for decades. What are you guys' opinion about IT department in this game?
I think you're 100% correct. When IT departments are involved, from what I see is primarily they're inhibitors right now. They don't know it, so they tend to block it. And I'm generalizing, of course. That's what I'm seeing. But when something does get deployed and delivered and deployed, that's when I see business. Yes, when we kind of get past the IT department. But that is a stage gate, an actual stage gate that we have to be able to move through right now. It is in my everyday work.
I think the honest opinion, no one knows. That's why we're probably a little bit reluctant here. Everyone is in experimental mode and everyone is trying to answer the same question. But let's assume, I know, Areti, you had your session on future of AI. And this was a brilliant session. I recommend it. Everyone needs to watch it and attend.
I don't disagree with everything that's been said. However, I think there is the difference now with technology deployments now compared to the past is that you need cross-functional teams now to make it a success. If it's a one-sided venture by either the IT team doing it or just the business doing it, chances are that it's not going to be as successful as if you have a representation from multiple parts of the business. And I'm thinking, the CIOs, CTOs, heads of IT of the world would probably want to manage the vendor relationship and the direction of the strategic direction of the technology being chosen, the budget, that kind of thing. But then your IT admins of the world would probably be more interested in the technical setup of it, the licenses, the tenant configuration, provisioning users, all that good stuff. They are not also responsible for security and compliance, and you've got other security and compliance people, which some organizations do, some don't. Then you talk about data and privacy, and soon, by next year, regulatory compliance for copilots and AI solutions, because they are AI deployers, and therefore regulation will come into effect as well. So who's going to be responsible for that? That'll be very interesting to see. Watch an episode on regulatory compliance and who that sits with sometime soon. And then we've got change management as well. We always forget about that one, but that can't really sit with, well, it shouldn't sit with IT. Sometimes it does. But yeah, training, adoption campaigns, that kind of thing, because I think now more than ever, we are in the fear reduction business as a sector. We're trying to get people to adopt something new that they're scared about, that they're worried about. And we have our job more than ever, I think, is to show them the ways this can be controlled and used productively and positively for them. So business unit leaders, use cases, champions, providing feedback, because like we said, all of this is experimental. They've got, I think, the biggest role to play really to say whether this is working or not at the end of the day, where the value is. And there's a problem with that as well.
And if you are a delivery manager, CTO, CIO, our usual audience, and it has been assigned to you, it's very likely to be assigned to that person, by the way. But do you think you need to get excited? What should be strategy here? Since no one has the crystal ball, I think what we can share from our decades of experience, so we can probably see some parallels and use that as analogy in the future, considering that AI irony is that most keen people are shadow AI users and executives. And what do you think if you translate that to our usual dynamic CRM or the dynamic CE implementation Power Platform? You always have somebody who is keen, how to leverage them in the context of AI. Maybe that will be a hint how we can advise and kind of think it through together.
I think as long as you're clear beforehand what benefits you're expecting to get, and how you're going to measure whether something is working for you or not. And when I say it's something, I mean an AI solution, model, copilots, whatever that may be. How you're going to train people to use it so they can make the most of it, because the last thing you want to do as an organization is implement a very good AI use case, but people are not actually aware of exactly how they can use that agent or how they can use that copilot. And they come back with feedback saying it's actually not useful, it's not driving business value, it's not making us better, because you've given them a Ferrari and they don't know how to switch gears because they've driven a normal car before. So they can't get it out of first gear. Well, that happens, right? That will happen. So there is that training step to go through. And I think that's a temporary problem as well. I don't think we'll have it in a year or two, because training will become compulsory, I think, kind of basic AI knowledge training in the next year. I think it will become compulsory anyway. And so I don't think that's going to be as much of an issue, but I think it is an issue right now. And as we were just saying about the governance, it's who's responsible. If you've got cross-functional teams, there needs to be overall a responsibility and ownership of those agents and those solutions that are deployed in the organization, so everyone is clear as to who they can go to, and someone to drive it forward, because the last thing you want is lack of ownership, that then the organization is using something but no one is owning it and therefore no one is driving it forward.
The question is how to put it under, Areti, you saying like how to manage the fear factor from executives. But my take, I will have two strategies. I'll have a strategy with executives working through their use cases, because majority of them, or some of them, what I hear, discussing how to reduce headcount, and you cannot really share this request with general community. And at the same time, talking to end users, those shadow AI users in the company, asking them how we can transition to Copilot, for example, to our corporate single version. So that will be me being assigned. But Antti, what do you think? I know you run a lot of governance. What you would do, considering all your years of experience running adoption deployment for Power Platform?
I honestly do think that from the C-suite and from the executive suite, a lot of the pro-AI mentality is because of the vast amounts of propaganda that has been fed to them. To me, it seems like a lot of the C-suite still thinks of AI and all these agents as a silver bullet to solve something magically. And I'm not really sure if they really even understand or know what those, what it can solve, because a lot of times on the operational level in business, they don't understand what it can solve. Heck, a lot of times on our side of the table, we don't know what it can solve.
We're always surprised when it's working, right?
We're always surprised when it's working and not surprised when it doesn't work.
Do you think that there is industry-specific differences there, though? So, for example, I recently went to a manufacturing conference, and they are very clear as to what they can use AI for and what it can do for them, particularly around the factory floor manufacturing, that kind of thing. They are very clear as to what the benefits of AI are. The problem there is the investment that needs to be made up front is quite a big thing, but they know that if they don't do it, their competition is going to do it, and they're going to have new service offerings as a result, that others, that kind of thing. So do you think that different industries are clearer than others as to what they can do with AI, or do we think all of them have a bit of a definition problem?
I would generalize that all of them have a definition problem, and I actually work the most with manufacturing probably. And I do see the use cases there. There are good use cases there, but it's a lot of guesswork. Let's see if this does that. It's kind of like trial and error stuff. It's not as clear as building a CRM system or an ERP system. Well, I'm not saying those might be clear either. Maybe CRM is if you got good consultants, pun intended. But with AI, it's a lot of guesswork, and they have ideas, but a lot of those ideas are, I want to say, I feel they are in general very optimistic. They put a lot of trust in again, AI being able to handle things, and agents being able to handle things like a silver bullet, and then that does not happen. And exactly like you said, in an enterprise landscape, those trial and errors, those proofs of concepts cost a lot of money, and they take a lot of time, and they depend on the existing infrastructure a lot. If the existing infrastructure is crap, then the outcome's not going to be good. So I think there is a lot more hype to this than there is.
Do you think that is in a way predictable though? Because don't we go through this with every new tool that we get, it gets overhyped, we think it's going to be the best thing ever, and then
I think
we
so.
test
Yeah.
it, we go through it in reality, and actually then realize what it's good and bad for, basically, and then perfect its use in the stack.
Do you remember how citizen development revolution was low code? Like it's a magic bullet, everyone's going to build apps.
Yeah.
And for a couple of years, we were so excited.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
whether
everyone
this-
learned how to create Canvas apps, and now they're going to be dead.
Yeah. I do think that. I think it's it's new things, new stuff. No one knows how it's going to play out.
We know it's going to be assigned to IT department. We know by definition.
Yeah.
It might be a wrong move from some companies, but it's unavoidable. So it's definitely coming to audience who listen to this podcast. But the thing is, if you have a choice, a magic wand, whom to assign, since it's such an experimental innovation, you need to have people who are very open to experiments and they know how to run corporate experiments. Yeah. And I can tell because I work more or less with manufacturing, but more with professional services. And professional service space, for example, marketing agencies, they definitely using AI now for everything. They're not selling, they complain. From one hand, they complain that AI is taking their job. From another thing, they use themselves to create pictures, to create slogans, whatever they do there.
Tech innovation team. We don't have the tech innovation team. That's the problem.
IT's involvement, I do want to say that it does partly depend on what we're doing. Mm-hmm. What kinds of systems are we touching? Are we, again, touching core infrastructure, core business systems? Are we doing something else? What's the level of awareness and knowledge that IT has in the tooling that we're going to use for that? I think I think business should own that. IT always has a role. They need to make sure that things are done safely and securely, but they also do need to relax and step aside and just step back from what's being done a little and let whoever is doing the experiment, whether it's your consultant, your vendor, take point on that, and not to inhibit what's being done because they don't know any better. That's the truth.
I don't know that we have consensus because I think it should be a cross-functional group of people that have shared ownership. However, I do acknowledge that shared ownership has its problems by default because you don't have a single owner. So what I would say is perhaps there is a product owner for the Copilot solution or model or agent, whatever the case may be. And then you have governance that is maybe a cross-functional team. So there's two levels potentially. You've got a low level of individual ownership of the solutions, but then you've got the governance is a shared group of people that actually drive that. Perhaps that's the answer.
And I do agree with cross-functional ownership to some extent, to some degree. And if we think of for example, how it works from the technical piping point of view, not to mention AMS and support point of view, today you can build some sort of AI solution or an agent that touches on different categories of applications, from commercial off the shelf like Microsoft 365 Copilot. It flows into something that's low code, and then it flows into something that's pro code. That solution can combine elements, or a solution can combine elements from kind of all those three different categories, which means that you have vastly different stakeholders on different levels in those buckets, all the way down to support, managed continuous services, whatever you want to call it.
But the only thing I would add from me is that unit should report directly to board. If AI is just a function, it's unlikely to be that successful. It's already super hard to make it successful, but if it has lower level supervision, it wouldn't fly. So this official recommendation from Power Delivery podcast: have cross-functional team, which reports as high as you can, and it's supervised by your business owners, by people who run the company at highest possible level. And these people who should own Copilot deployment and delivery.
Yeah. And it should be CIOs, CTOs, heads of IT admins, your IT team, security and compliance people, change management people, HR training, that kind of thing. and your business unit leaders, most importantly.
Okay, so now we're shifting gears, and now we're going to, as those who follow us for a long time, long means a couple of months, we have a second part of every single episode. We're trying to do something really tangible. It's Wheel of Fortune chosen for us, some random topic, and the random topic for today is champions and ownership. To make it spicy, we will pick up 3 different roles just to make it more like a debate and more entertaining for listeners. And we have a couple of roles for champions and ownership. We'll have program sponsor, we have local champion, super user, and we have skeptical end user. So unless somebody wants to volunteer to be one of these roles, we'll have random numbers assigned. Anyone volunteers? Anyone wants to be skeptical end user, local champion, or program sponsor?
I could be the skeptical end user.
I thought you might go for that. I'll go program sponsor.
Okay, so you left the most.
Oh, well, I can change if you want. Do you want we can swap. We can swap halfway.
Yeah. Actually, let's do local champion, because I remember Antti and yourself in your Areti, you had some debate unfinished. Is assigning sponsorship good thing? And I think you being as a local champion, I think, and Antti, you can be a skeptical user. That could be a good debate. You can put it to bed, this topic. Okay, so I'm program sponsor, Areti is local champion, super user, skeptical, and anti-skeptical end user. Skeptical end user, what do you think about championship and ownership? It's Antti, you.
What have you done for me lately?
Is it your hot take?
What have you ever done for me?
I'm as a program sponsor can tell you, we did the old for you. We created an entire structure. We created champions. We have separate meetings where people meet and talk. And those local champions, they're trying to be ambassadors. They spend endless sleepless nights thinking of issues you're going to have and ask us. So what you're not happy about with you, Mr. Skeptical end user? Why championship and ownership you think might not work?
If I need to learn how to build something, I need to learn it myself. What's the role of a champion who has his day job, his primary job, doing coffee for Karen in accounting, that's going to take all their time? I just don't get it. What's the pro of a champion if like they're not there?
So Miss Champion, what do you think?
I think there are challenges. From a local champion and super user perspective, I've got my challenges for sure. I don't know if people will trust me if Copilot makes a mistake. I don't know if I can get other people to use it. What if they don't want to use it? What if it thinks it's going to replace their jobs? Do I have the right resources to support everybody in terms of training them and enabling them to use it? What if they use it for things they're not meant to use it? What do we do then? Because not everybody's going to do that. Can we stay ahead of the curve, the next thing that comes along? So staying up to date, keeping up to date. If I give you feedback, will it lead to change? Will you listen to me?
Why would I listen to you? You're not my manager.
Well, but I am your super user. I'm here to support you. Speaking of which, how can I promote Copilot to you without overselling it and you thinking that I am overselling it to you? How do I balance my advocacy with realism? That's my concern, my worry.
And how do I know that you're not biased? You're like, what you're saying is objective, and if you say that something works, then it really works, and if something doesn't work, that it really doesn't work. How do I know that it's not just Microsoft propaganda that you're trying to shove down my throat?
I'm a Microsoft MVP, and you can trust me.
Yeah, and I'm as a program sponsor assigned the person who is ideally is not against the program. By the way, one of our earlier podcasts, we said that you want to be sure that local champion is the one who wants to advance your cause, not to derail, because sometimes people assigned to project is just random assigned people. So assuming local champion is the guy who program sponsor assigned in a goodwill, that person should help and answer questions. So Mr. Skeptical end user, you don't have questions. You don't want to have somebody who will walk around and answer all your questions, doing it for free, super motivated. Don't you think it will empower you, and you can have one less worry to have every single question which is not in the document will be answered by somebody else? What do you think from that?
So would you kind of take my worries and my concerns forward if I see something that I think should work somehow on this platform or whatever flicky we're using apps or automations? Will you take my worries and my concerns forward and like enable us to use more? I can't use this Power Pages. I can't build my websites for some reason. Why not? I can't understand that. Can you take that forward?
So what, Mrs. Champion, you think how you would address that balance between being advocate and for system, for project sponsor, and being advocate for skeptical end user who doesn't like the system?
So I think it's important to make sure that the end users are represented and their feedback is listened to. And if someone does give feedback, they hear back about their feedback, because the worst thing is when someone gives feedback and nothing happens, then they're just not going to do it again because they feel like it makes no difference. So whatever the feedback may be, sometimes as a super user, you can answer that feedback. You can say, well, actually, the answer is X, Y, and Z, and let me teach you, let me show you, let me tell you. But sometimes the feedback is valid, that something isn't working or something could be done better. So a lot of the time, people will complain, generally speaking, but they will never, almost never, give you a suggestion as to what they would like to be done about the thing that they're complaining about. Some people just like complaining. Some end users are just grumpy and they don't like change, and it doesn't matter what you tell them, they just don't like it. And it's really about showing them the benefits, how they can be better by using AI, how AI can augment them effectively and assist them. Hopefully they will agree and they will understand that it does give them give them a benefit, and they will stay behind if they don't use it, which isn't good for them and what they're trying to achieve. I think that's what I would say is it's a balance, right? It's not easy. It's not easy because you're effectively trying to get people to do something differently to how they have done it before. And you can't force them to. They need to see for themselves and agree that changing the way they do things is going to be beneficial for them. They have to come to that conclusion themselves. They can't just be told. None of us, if any of us, it's human nature, right, that we're dealing with here. If any of us are told that we are wrong, we immediately become defensive. It doesn't matter if we are actually wrong or not. It's the fact that someone is saying to us, you are wrong and I am right. We will immediately become defensive. So it's the same with saying to someone, you need to change the way you work. They will become defensive and say, no, the way I work is fine. And it's not that it's not, it is fine. But but there is a way to work better now. And we all have to acknowledge that. And to Anti's point, experiment with it, try out a different way of working and see what works for us and what doesn't.
So would you say as a champion that your kind of side job, your side hustle is to teach me how to flow so it doesn't blow, or how to access resources for me to learn myself how to flow so it doesn't blow?
My job is to show you why flowing is good for you and then get you excited about it and enthusiastic about it so that you yourself want to flow.
So Richie, what you're saying, you're effectively a seller. You're a seller of technology. But I think at the same time, you said you're a therapist just for those complainers. So are we saying the champion should be a person who can sell in a good way? I'm not saying for money, whatever. Sell an idea or convince of idea, and at the same time it should be a therapist just to make program sponsor manager life easier. So in this case, program sponsor, all he needs to carry is to defy this kind of person and fly to Ibiza to enjoy his life, because somebody else will sell the idea and will deal with all the therapeutical problems arising from it.
The thing is, super users and local kind of champions, they are very much change managers. That is fundamentally what they do. So yeah, to a certain extent, change management is a little bit therapy, a little bit support, a little bit encouragement, a little bit advocacy, a little bit selling, I would argue. Yeah.
Though usually sponsors are super users, technologists. That's a very interesting, I think, discovery. You're seeing them as change managers. And that's Areti. Oh, sorry, Antje, what do you think? Do you think it will kind of settle your point that if it's a change manager agent, really qualified, you would be more happy to have this kind of champion?
I think it helps, and I think it helps move hopefully makes it easier to move blocking issues down the line, the chain of command, and to unblock, I want to say, process problems, which are, if something doesn't work, that's a technical issue, and a technical block are probably easier to solve than process problems. So if the way the organization works sucks and it has bad processes, then an individual, I'm brewing coffee for Karen in accounting, I can't do anything to change our processes, most likely. If that champion is a bit of a change manager and can influence that, I'm not saying like they have to be that high in an organization to be able to inflict direct change, but to take that forward, perhaps to argument that in a better way than I can, then that could help. And it has to do with like really simple things. Just an example out of the back of my head. To share your custom agents who need an entry ID group, how do you, as a John Doe or a Jane Doe, get access to something like that is not a technical issue. It is a process issue on top of everything.
So I think we can take off our hats and just who wants to summarize? I've really enjoyed the couple of discoveries we've made in this kind of small debate. Have you been sold any good thoughts for having a championship program?
So we started discussing, who owns AI delivery projects. when you're building something on AI, and we had a discussion on whether it should be business or whether it should be cross-functional teams. It is a mixture of both business and cross-functional teams that should have ownership of what we deliver, whether it's agents or something else. And then we moved on to discuss champions and champion programs and what are the pros and cons of champion programs in an organization. And the consensus of that and the output of that is that champions need to be a bit of change managers, they need to be therapists, and they need to be technical evangelists so that they can not only hear the worries and enable people, but to also drive small bits and pieces of organizational and process change in organizations.
Be the translators.
Be the translators. Yes, that's well put. Yeah, that's a good definition. Yeah.